I'm going to tell you the importance of looking at the sell price and break-even line in comparison to the rest of the data that the sales charts provide and what is best to look out for. So the sell price and break-even line, that's the light purple line and the teal colored line. Let me just turn off some of these other bits to show you that nice and clear. So it will always be a straight line across the chart. Now, this information is purely determined by BuyBotPro, which of course is determined by you. So your break-even is obviously the price that you if you sold for that price, you wouldn't make anything. So it's typically a sum of all of your costs together, and that's how much you spend. Therefore, if you sell for that price, you cover all those costs, but you don't make anything profit wise. You make zero. The sell price is obviously your sell price. That's the price you're intending to sell the item for. So you need to make sure that that information is entered into BuyBotPro. So the break even will obviously need your buy price. The sell price will be your sell price. And of course, BuyBotPro works all of that stuff out for you here. Now, this information relates directly to the sales chart. So if you were to say change something in the buy price, like if I put this as 50 instead, obviously that's going to recalculate bits here. That's also going to recalculate it on this chart, right? So that will change as you change stuff on the main panel. Now, what is the point of these? So the sell price, you want to compare this to everything else on the chart, by the way. The sell price, you want to know how this information is going to affect your actual sell price, and if you will end up selling for the intended price or below or above, and you know what the chances are of selling for said price. And the break even is sort of the do not cross kind of line, right? You don't want, it's the do not cross kind of line. You don't want anything to really fluctuate below this. And of course, I'm talking more about the actual prices here rather than things like BSR. Of course, the BSR will help give us an indication to sales, but it's mostly the pricing that we are looking for on the sales chart when we're comparing against these lines right here. So if I flick on the things that we want to be looking at, it's all of the different prices, okay? Now, the sell price, that can be okay in a lot of circumstances, even if it goes below the sell price line, because we're still making a profit. Is it the desired kind of profit? That's for you to know. But of course, if it ends up typically going below the sell price that you have in mind, then obviously that's the price you can expect to sell for. Whether or not that's okay, as I say, that's dependent on you and what you think and what your views are and what your target profit is. And if it turns out that it is consistently below the sell price, you need to make that decision on whether or not that's going to be worth it for you. It's your break even line, as I say, that's the do not cross kind of line. So in this case, it looks to be okay, right? So I'm just zooming in on the information a little bit more to make it a bit easier to read. So we can see that our intended sell price is 17.48. Now, there are moments in this chart where we have no buy box information at all. This can be for one of two reasons. Either the buy box is suppressed from moving too high, or Keeper simply hasn't tracked this information for those periods of time. So it's one of the two. Now we can determine if the buy box is suppressed by looking at if the buy box was on an upwards trajectory before it simply disappeared. And it looks like on both occasions here where it has disappeared, that it was on an upward streak. However, we can see when it was recorded again, it went upwards here, but it was able to record it right here. So I think that this is more likely due to Keeper not tracking that information, which is of course not the best thing, but unfortunately it can't really be helped. If Keeper decides that they aren't going to track something, or there's an error or something where they can't track it, then unfortunately it's not going to show here. We can see there's a gap here where it was on a downwards trajectory, and of course it did shoot back up right here, but that would have been fine. Otherwise the buy box would have been suppressed at these points as well. So it looks more like Keeper hasn't been tracking the information. However, from what we can read, it looks like the buy box does spend a bit of time, like quite a bit of time, below our intended sell price at several points. So we can see, so it's below the intended sell price of 17.48. We can see it's at 16.57 here. We can see that it's at 16.65. It's sitting around 16.40 something here, and here it dips very quickly to 14.82. But it does spend quite a bit of time around our intended sell price as well, and also a little bit higher. Now, overall, just at a glance, I would say that it spends a little bit more time below the sell price. It's not by loads, it's usually by about £1. But it does go above, which is nice to see. And it does spend quite a bit of time in recent days above our intended sell price, 21.90 something, which is a few pounds above, which is ace. We want that sort of thing to happen. So if we see that it spends a lot of its time above our intended sell price, we are guaranteed a higher chance of selling for our intended sell price or even for higher. If we see that it spends more time below, then chances are we will sell for below our intended sell price. If it spends its time a bit 50-50 like we've nearly got going on here, then you stand just as much chance of it selling for less as it does above. And then, of course, you stand quite a fair chance of selling for your intended sell price. However, here it doesn't seem to sit exactly at that kind of pricing. It just seems to be for now. So if we are to take anything from this, I would say that its popularity must have increased recently. Okay, we can see that it shot up and it stayed up from the start of the month most of the time. So it looks like that's the kind of trajectory it's going on. Okay, it has lowered a little bit, but for the foreseeable future, it looks like it will remain above the sell price. Of course, anything can happen, but based on what we can see right here, I'm sure that we would make sales above our intended sell price, all being well. However, we do need to factor in what we've seen beforehand. So from November all the way through to sort of mid-January, it spent the vast majority of its time below our intended sell price. Of course, we won't know exactly what happened in this period, or this period right here where it was lost. But from what we can see, it spent a bit of time below the sell price. At some point in this period, it would have shot up above, and then it's kind of stayed on that kind of trajectory since. So we do need to just be a bit wary and bear in mind that it could potentially go below, and it's how far below it goes that will determine if we want to go ahead with this kind of product. In this case, given that it's only about £1 below, I would say, for me personally, I think that's okay. I think that's fine, and I think in a lot of cases that would be fine. It's the break even we want to look out for. Now, in this case, we are seeing that the buy box and, well, none of the prices really on here are going below our break even. Now, the buy box, if that goes below the break even, I would say at any point in the last anywhere from 90 or 180 days, I'll leave that for you to decide. I would say if it does compromise the break even at any point in this kind of time range, then it's something to really think about before you buy, because that can potentially happen again. If it happens a few times, then I would say that the risk of selling below your break even is significantly higher. Okay, I would personally not want to risk it, because if it goes below, we're selling for a loss. If that happens, then we take a loss, and we don't want that. That can be helped if we have a repricing tool like Profit Protector Pro, which will proactively work to bump up the price, so the risk is significantly reduced in that case. However, if we don't have anything like that, then if it dips, there's not really anything we can do about it. Okay, so we want it to be consistently above our break even. We don't really want it to be touching it or going below. So given that this isn't really the case here, I would say that we are very safe with this item. However, if that was the case and it was dipping below, then it's probably a no-go, and we don't want it to sit on the break even either, because we want to make money. Obviously, we don't want to sell for zero because there's no point. So as long as everything remains consistently above, then that's fine. And that is why it's important to read the sell price and break even line in correspondence to the rest of the information you have on your sales charts.